Welcome to Motivational Monday Awkward Conversations in the Quarantine. Answering questions that you've been asking and others have been asking during this crazy time, the pandemic, and then some of the protests. Today we're going to answer a few questions that have been asked. And if you have any others that you feel are important that you'd like me to answer, we'll be doing this again soon. So the first question is, should we defund the police? It's been a big hot topic, hot button topic. And the way I'll answer it is this. They're good cops, they're bad cops, they're corrupt cops, racist cops, and brutal cops. But the great majority of police officers are not bad, corrupt, racist, or brutal. And if they were, with all the millions of contacts that police officers in North America encounter, our countries would look very, very different. Think about it for a minute. Police officers are generally performing thankless jobs. Answering a call at 3 a.m. because of the neighbor's barking dog or domestic dispute. Police officers don't get rich doing their jobs. Yet in every community, we expected the police to be there if we are in an emergency or we call 911. If shots are fired in the neighborhood, and thank God most of us who live in Canada, we don't have to deal with this, but if there is no response, our first question would be, where's the police? And of course, none of this justifies or excuses police brutality. It doesn't bring back those who were wrongfully killed. And none of this denies that some people have become police officers because they want to be in control or they want to be in power. But this demonizing of the police is unhealthy, it's unfair, and even dangerous. And these reflexive calls to defund or abolish the police are impulsive and extreme. For me, I thought about this for a while. Improving the policing profession, not disassembling it, is the best means to prevent such senseless tragedies from happening again. One of the problems that we have in Canada and also in the States that there's not been a courage to implement and fund a series of long overdue reforms that can reset effectively and make uniform professional standards. It's hypocritical for politicians to go, we want to defund them because they're not doing well, when they're not even putting in the money, and also to legislate that there'd be a uniform way of doing things professionally for police officers. And it's been years now in the asking, and it just makes sense for it to happen. Defunding or dismantling the police means different things to different people. Some people want it for money to go towards education, mental health services, social workers, etc., etc. And it's important, but those advocating for the extreme spectrum, fully dismantling the police, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it ignores the reality that it's impractical and the risk, namely that we would still need some sort of reliable system to investigate and prevent crimes. And we've had some small sample size in the States, i.e. Seattle, i.e. Atlanta, i.e. Portland. There are some areas that we've already seen some small sample size that it doesn't quite work as the way they'd like it to be. And as well, the most vulnerable among us, inner city, at-risk communities, endure higher crime rates, and defunding will have such a big adverse effect on many of those people. And I also find it interesting that a lot of the people with a lot of money and a lot of, they're the big talkers, they have security details. So while they're telling, we should defund, don't ask them to give up their security detail. Despite the police misconduct that happens, and it gets a lot of national attention and worldwide attention, and countless others that should, but they don't, it's important to realize and to remember that the vast majority of police do honor their commitment to protect and serve. I think if we reduce incidents of police misconduct, and there's a few things that I can think of, improving police community relations, we should professionalize the police, ensuring that officers are well paid, appropriately trained, and highly accountable. I think that new recruits and regular police officers who have been officers for a while, that they need to continually receive top-notch training in communication, de-escalation, use of force. And so many, as we're finding out, so many of the agencies lack a lot of these resources. So if there was a national type of linear line that all police forces follow in Canada and also in the States, I think that we would see a lot of good things happening. Some people have said, "Oh, the blue line. They need to tell on the bad cops." One thing I would say is that we could say that, but isn't it interesting that in a lot of our cases, in our workplace or different areas that we are involved in, that sometimes we're afraid because what's going to happen to us? And I can give you two examples. One young police officer had made a complaint about a couple of his other officers, and he was put through the ringer, and he actually had to quit. I know my brother was in a situation where he was with his superior, and he's not a police officer, but he's in the education field, and his superior said, in confidence, tell me some of the things that are going on, and he was very general. He wasn't talking about people, and he goes, no, it's between us. And what happened in a meeting? Well, they brought up his name, and he was scourged. So I think sometimes when we go, oh, they should, I do believe that there should be some sort of anonymous tip line or some way that good officers can also say, hey, you ought to watch for him because he's doing a lot of crazy things. So defunding the police, I don't know if it's a great idea. I do know that there needs to be revamping, and it's not the greatest answer for some who believe, oh, we abolish. What's the alternative? And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a community where I don't have the police presence in my community. In fact, one other thing I'd say is that for some of us who are upset and we're like, oh, the police are so bad, we need to be proactive. So what have I done? Because I can't tell you to do something that I wouldn't do, is that I actually reached out to my local police station and asked if I could go and meet the commander and the public relations officer, who I've met before, and just to talk to them and see what they're doing in terms of relations with the community. So while we're upset, I think we also have to be proactive. The second question I got was, why can black people use the N-word and white people and others cannot? Wow, what a powerful question. Well, we know, at least in history, that the word started off as just a description, Negro. And it started in Spain with the Spanish and their slaves, and then it jumped over to France with their slaves, and then it came over to North America. And these are the words that they used that described the Negro. And of course, it stretched out into the N-word. Is that it means with no value attached to it or beneath the dirt. Wow. That's what that word means. Powerful, powerful words. And of course, like I said, the 17th century is the Spaniards and then the French, and then they came over to North America, and then it developed from Negro to the N-word, and then in recent times, people like to add the Z word to it. It's been intentionally derogatory. It's never been able to shed the baggage since then. So even when black people talk about agreeing and adopting it, it really strikes me as odd, because I'm thinking, do you actually know what this word means? So we have stars, hip-hop artists, in their music, sports stars and personalities talking about, this is our word. The poison is there. The word is locked. It's linked with violence and brutality on black bodies, psyches, derogatory slanders, the amount of killings, rapes, pillages, and there's no degree of accepting it can rid it of that blood-soaked history. When I was 8 years old, I was going out to play one morning, and my dad said to me, son, when you go outside, you're only to answer to Dave, David, or Mills. Okay. And as I was going out, he said, son, I'm telling you, when you're outside, you're only to answer Dave, David, or Mills. And I looked, okay, Dad. And I remember walking down the little stretch of grass to get to the sidewalk, and I said, does Dad not know that I know my name? But what he was doing that day was the beginning of tuning my ears to only hear from my name, because he knew at 8 years old I couldn't understand everything. And when I was 13 years old, one afternoon in the summer, we were sitting on the porch and we got talking, and Dad started to open up these windows, and he started explaining to me about things that I might be called. And he started particularly talking about the N-word. And he said, do you know what this word means? And I had heard it a few times, but I really never reacted because, they didn't call me by my name. And Dad started saying it meant that you were beneath the dirt. It meant that you were dirty. It meant that there was nothing good about you. And I was like blown away that day. And Dad said, he goes, you don't have to answer when anybody calls you that because it's not you. They didn't say Dave, David, or Mills. So you don't have to. And then he went further and he said, and with the description of what the name means, he goes, anybody could be that. And that day was a day that it changed everything for me in terms of how I viewed myself. And to that day, to this day, I never reacted except for once. I've only reacted once. And that was when I was in high school. This kid was calling me like some terrible discriminatory names, and I never reacted. And the only reason why I reacted was because we had started to like girls in grade 11, the group of guys I was around, and the girls were with us and always hanging around. And I just thought it was so disrespectful that this kid could like have such a dirty mouth. And that was the only reason why I reacted. There's these crazy things now where some black kids will say, teenagers and young adults will say to their friends, hey, I'm giving you the N pass so you can use that word. And I'm thinking to myself, if you know what that word means, why would you even want to call yourself that? Because basically you're saying, I'm not worth anything, I'm beneath the dirt, I have no value attached to me. So now that you know what this word means, you can't freshen up dirt. You can't make dirt any better than what it is. And so instead of getting upset and angry to my black friends, if you now you know what it means, then you don't have to get upset because they're not talking to you. And for my white friends, well, I mean, if you ever use the word, now you know that this is what you're calling someone else. It's dirt, it's filthy, it's garbage. This is what you're saying when you use the N-word. So, may not like the answer, but I can't see a black person ever wanting to call themselves this. And a lot of these black artists have made a lot of money on the backs of young people, and they don't even realize that they're selling a terrible product. And we are inferring to ourselves or inferring to somebody else that you're dirty, you're low, you're beneath the dirt. I have value because my name is Dave, David, or Mills. So that's it. Hopefully this has been helpful. We'll do this again soon. If you have some questions, things that are on your mind, please send them to me and I'd be more than happy to give you some perspective from my point of view. Anyway, have a great week, and I trust that you work on those connections because they really matter. Take care. Have a good day.